Hey guys, I'm Game Advisor and welcome back to another Icarus update video. Today we're going to be covering the week 31 update, which is called Community Feedback number 1. So let's just jump right into it. All you really need to know is that this one is addressing a lot of the community's issues, specifically in the construction mechanics of the game. A lot of these fixes are going to come with the free build mode, so what does that actually mean? Well, free build mode is a new option you'll have within Icarus whenever you're building. Unfortunately, it doesn't show it on the UI, so you do have to know the hotkey or look it up. Otherwise, just so you know, the hotkey is the home button on your keyboard. When you hit this key, it basically allows you to ignore all snapping objects, so it's a little bit more useful than the N key, since you'll be able to place objects close together, where with the N key you can't do that without snapping them. So once again, this is going to allow you to build structures such as fence posts very close together, maybe poles, maybe walls. You can even build walls within side walls. I think we made this kind of like big bird-like statue weird thing out of a bunch of wooden thatch. I mean, you can really kind of go crazy with this, but at the end of the day, you can't place it on top of another structure because it has to register as being part of the foundation with that grid. If it's not snapped to a grid, then you can't just place it floating up into the air or even inside another grid, as you can see us doing inside this stone structure. In other words, this is going to be extremely useful whenever you're fighting something like a boss, since you'll be able to actually put a bunch of walls very close together and maybe build like a little window to shoot through, or just some kind of a barricade for very, very cheap in order to protect you from that boss or that enemy. You could drop, say, 5 different walls in front of you in a very short period of time if you know what you're doing and you know the hotkeys. This can be really overpowered, I feel like, and we'll have to see what happens with it, but it is something I think the devs are going to have to address. It's actually intended to be used in such a way that players can just kind of use it at their own base and build bases in a little more of a unique and interesting way. I'm glad that's a thing, but I do think it's going to cause a big issue in the whole combat, especially with things like bosses or defending a point, since you'll be able to stack walls almost within inside each other to the exact millimeter. You could put 10 stone walls within a foot of space, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Along with this though, they do give you the ability to hit page up and page down to move your pieces, which is another thing that is just kind of quality of life. I will say that. I'm glad they put that in the game. It is just a convenience thing for us to have. And again, the hotkey to go into free build mode is going to be the home button on your keyboard. They've also made some different building improvements. For one, we have the fact that you can now place double doors, and you're now able to place windows inside thatch, interior wood, glass, concrete, and aluminum walls. This basically just means that there's a new type of window that you're able to place down, and you'll be able to place those windows down inside any type of structure. Now with this though comes the fact that you're able to make reinforced glass. Reinforced glass is a stronger version of glass by about 5 times the HP. That means it can take a lot more damage before it breaks. How you get the reinforced glass is actually pretty simple. All you need is a water pump powered to bring water to your glass working bench, which can now take water, of course, so that's a new feature as well. And that glass working bench is going to then create anything it makes as reinforced glass as far as building structures go. They'll have 5 times the amount of HP and require no extra materials other than the fact that it's supplied with water. It's very nice to have, and it gives them a lot more durability if you're going to make glass in the first place. To give you a comparison here, glass walls currently have the same total durability as a stone wall does, so they're not quite as strong as concrete, but they are still pretty darn strong. After that, the devs are really just saying, hey, look, we're trying to lay down the foundations for T4 still. Don't worry, we're not done yet. Things still need to be improved, such as mechanics, the outpost, balancing, and different amounts of pressures being put on you from different enemies all need to be worked on. So if you're struggling with the feeling of the late game not feeling that good, don't worry, they're still working on it. They haven't stopped. With that being said though, later on in the thing, they do say they are going to be focusing more on getting that DLC ready to go, so hopefully we can look forward to that soon. I'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. They are also trying to add in modding support to make the game a little bit easier to mod for players who want to do that, especially if they're going to be hosting their own servers. I think this could be really, really good for the game. We'll just have to see what happens with it and see if it takes too much away from the base game, or if mods are so good that you're able to completely change the game to the point where it's just a totally different game. I just don't want it to make the regular game too easy if you're able to mod your own game. That would kind of take away the fun for me, and it would take away the whole point of them even bothering to balance it, because then modders can do it. But again, we're just gonna have to see what the mods can and can't do as they put these things out and these tools out for modders to use. After that, they mentioned that they updated one of their games, and one of their games is on sale, which is cool and all, but as far as Icarus goes, it really doesn't concern us, so we're just going to skip past that. If you do want to check out their game, it's called Stationeers. I'm not sponsoring it or anything like that. It's just on the update page, so I wanted to mention it. Now down here, they say that they are currently working on DLC and putting a lot of time into it. There's some important things to note though in this DLC that they're discussing. First off, we have firm confirmation now that they are planning to put mounts into the game at this point in time. These mounts are not vehicles, but are some kind of rideable animal. Again, we don't have specifics onto exactly what this is going to look like, but we do know that you'll be able to ride animals most likely in this new DLC. They also took the time to note right here that they will be releasing this DLC with a free update for all players. So if you're not a pay-to-win player like me, then this might be useful for you. After that are the community-driven changes. The community-driven changes are things like the outpost drop zone selection being made so that if you leave by the return to character select button, then rejoin, you'll return to the place you left like on normal prospects. If you leave by dropship, you'll then be returned by dropship and bring with you the loadout that you've selected. They've also increased the durability of all concrete building pieces, which is a nice little addition to make concrete maybe just that little bit more desirable. They've also just fixed some incorrect prospect difficulties, which isn't really too big of an issue in my experience, but it is something that they've done. And they've also fixed the wood composter not making any fertilizer. These are just little additions and little bug fixes that can make a huge difference if there's something that you personally might have been experiencing, so I'm glad they're working on them. Now, I could go into depth with this whole changelog down here, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much just covering all the things we've already talked about, and they just mention a few things they might be doing later on. Now, I really do like this update and all. It does add some good things to the game, some things that I think many players have wanted, especially the more creative players in the construction elements of it, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't add too much meat and bones to the game. I do think that's because they're focusing more on the DLC in order to push it out to the public so that we can get that big juicy piece of content. I am really excited for the mounts and many other things, but if you guys had anything you personally really enjoyed with this update, do feel free to comment down below. But with that being said, before I wrap up the video, I do want to shout out our Platinum and Above members, Jim Phillips and Jonathan S. for helping to support our channel. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching, and for more Icarus and other survival game content, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you once again, and I'll see you next time.